All right, beautiful. Can you hear me? Sounds like you can hear me well. Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Valeo. I'm from Quasar. Some of you may know me. We've been working on Quasar for almost 2 years at this point, and the reason I'm standing here today is because we want to explore Quasar's role in the future of Osmosis, as Osmosis is our main hub of yield generation for now, and will be for a long time moving ahead. So, first things first, the road ahead, the road behind. We have started in November 2021, which is a pretty long time ago in my books. Time is definitely speeding by. We've seen a need for yield generation and for vault infrastructure in Cosmos that wasn't existing back then. We've also scaled the team to like 14 people. We've raised 11.5 million for IBC yield generation, which is, in my books, really exciting, as Cosmos needs much more institutional collaboration to come into the ecosystem if we want to scale to an Ethereum level. We've also helped build the ICQ module, which a lot of projects are using for querying data through IBC, which is a much more decentralized way of doing it than centralized oracles. We have our own app chain, and we had the first Cosmos-enabled contracts that were able to use IBC, which is our core infrastructure for now and how we're doing our vaults on Osmosis. And so, in the first half year of our product, we had no Quasar token launch. We were one of the only projects in Cosmos that launched a chain without a token yet live. And we've had thousands of people using the product without any monetary incentives on Quasar, which was an exciting step for us to see that we have actual product market fit. And now we've taken the step of launching the token recently on StreamSwap, and the road ahead looks pretty sick. We've also come a pretty long time from last year's Osmocon, where we had a really bad logo, and I was definitely not ready to present at that point. If anyone, by the way, is curious about the behind the scenes of our mainnet launch, there's an article you can find on our Twitter. I'll link it later in the presentation, but it was definitely a very hectic time, and I think a lot of people in Cosmos should see what happens if you launch your own chain, as it's not very easy to do. So, 0.7%, that's the total liquidity that's currently managed by Quasar on Osmosis. We are kind of on the track to the first %. And what is really exciting about those numbers right now is that it is purely done being a UX UI product. So our strategies are currently not doing any smart strategies as something with CL would use, as the current model for Osmosis for such a long time was purely AMM based. So there's 1,500 people that wanted an easier experience to LP into Osmosis, and there's going to be much more once we get to a yield-generating improvement as well using our infrastructure. That's the way our frontend looks like. We've tried, we are very obsessed with user experience. If anyone here is a Quasar user, we have Ross from our team in our stand in the corner. Please tell us about your experience, because the entire purpose of our product is to make the experience for people easier to participate in DeFi. I think one of the things that we in crypto really forget is how many people are never going to understand how DeFi works. Either they don't have time to figure it out, or they're not going to find the expertise to teach it to them. Yet the entire purpose we have DeFi is because we want to allow global access to financial products. So we need to bridge that gap, and I think the only way to bridge it is by abstracting away the tech and creating easy-to-use products. As I've mentioned before, growth driver moving forward for us is going to be yield. And the reason that's coming up now is with the launch of concentrated liquidity and subsequently our concentrated liquidity vaults. As Zach has already shown and Sunny, CL is incredibly complicated. And it's very, very easy for people to lose money on CL and to not be able to outperform the market because there's so many more variables to consider when you're depositing. You cannot manually sit and forget unless you go full range, which means you're not going to get a lot of yield. You are not going to be able to compete against experts because they have resources, time, expertise, and logic that you don't possess, which is the reason that we need asset management in the industry and the reason that products like a Sommelier and us exist. You're also going to incur higher impermanent loss if you don't know what you're doing, because you have to consider constantly if your position is still in range, and if it moves out of range, suddenly you're holding one of the two assets that you initially wanted to keep. Again, it's not sit and forget. Added complexity, and also easy to miss out, because once you move out of the range, you're not making any money. So CL is predominantly a product for experts to run on, and the only way users can have exposure to that is if they agree to have the experts manage their capital. And we at Quasar built infrastructure that allows you to do that permissionlessly and non-custodial. You can also see our logo on the front end for CL. We just passed our Osmosis proposal to have a whitelisted address, so thank you to anyone who voted on that. And we are already talking with the first strategist teams about creating CL strategies. The reason we can talk to these teams is because Osmosis and Quasar currently has the only interchain grants collaboration in Cosmos. I believe in the ecosystem such as Cosmos, where we don't have a singular underlying token that represents all our value, such as Ethereum would on Ethereum or Polkadot on Polkadot. We need much more collaboration between chains. We need to really consolidate our user experience, we need to consolidate our direction for IBC, and we need to consolidate deployment of capital to work on solutions that people want. And so Osmosis and Quasar are working together on funding independent strategist teams to create CL vaults. We're already in conversation with a couple, and I'm very excited about that because it's going to create an entire ecosystem of experts generating yield on Osmosis, and it's going to create an entire platform for people to be exposed to that without having to be an expert that sits on the computer 24/7, crunches numbers. Exactly, there you go. So most of you know that Quasar currently uses an IBC model for our vaults. So how it works is our vaults are only deployed on Quasar, and they're trading on Osmosis. And we've built all of that using IBC infrastructure such as ICQ, which we've co-developed, and Interchain accounts, which we're using. However, it would be a lie to say that that's not really complicated. And if you just listen to Zaki, you're going to know that there's enough complication on the CL side that you don't need to add more complication on the infrastructure side. So we're moving to an outpost vault model for that. So Quasar is not only going to be the vault home for now that traders and other chains. That's going to be very useful for a lot of moments where you don't want to pass governance or you can't pass governance on the destination. Or the strategies are inherently simple and are a UX UI improvement where you abstract away all the complexities by having that technical layer. We're going to use an outpost vault model, which means we're going to deploy the vaults on Osmosis, such as other vault providers, and connect to Quasar for users to have an easier onboarding experience to that. Now, IBC is the only thing that we are maxis on. We think that anything and everything should be on IBC. We know it's a very hard ask for the entire crypto space because a consensus level protocol inherently needs so much work to be integrated, and that's the reason why it took so long to have Polkadot IBC. That's the reason why it's going to take so long to have Ethereum IBC. But we think it's the only worthy approach because any other bridge has so many added security assumptions that are constantly being abused. I mean, if you look at rec.hq/leaderboard and you check all the hacks in the crypto space, 80% of the biggest ones are bridges for good reason. And so if we want IBC to become the de facto standard of cross-chain communication in all of crypto, we need to abstract it away, ironically. People should not know they're using IBC. The same way no one knows that they're using TCP/IP or that you don't know which server your website is running on if you're clicking on the link. You're not supposed to know. It's supposed to be abstracted away. And so we have this interesting challenge where we have this Arc reactor, our IBC implementation, like the best thing coming out of Cosmos in our opinion, and we can only show it to the right people at the right moments, because if we try to teach everyone that's non-technical about IBC, they're going to say, I don't care, I don't know what you're saying, and it's too complicated. And so we really have a big goal in Cosmos to advocate for IBC, each and every one of us. And I think that we can do it because there's no misaligned incentives with a token for IBC. We have a lot of different opinions on what should be the hub of Cosmos. We have a lot of different opinions on whether or not Atom should be called Cosmos or Atom Hub. But one thing we can all agree on is that IBC should be the thing we rally behind, as it gives our ecosystem a long-term plan for sustainability attached to Ethereum and co. So what we say is IBC allows you to specifically target a single product that you want to build. Instead of having to try to build 5, 6 products that are not super interesting for a user, you can focus on the singular thing that you have the expertise in building and leverage IBC to build a better product that uses other chains. And IBC is also much more than just token transfers by now. There's been so many advancements in IBC. With our calls and WASM implementation, you can now have smart contracts use IBC. Interchain accounts allow you to have essentially embassies on other chains, which also allows you to do our implementation, which is a Quasar vault trading on Osmosis without being deployed there. Interchain queries are Oracle free, so you can just query data from one chain to another. There's a lot of things happening, especially the Skip team. I think some of them are here, I hope. But shout out to the Skip team, because they're doing a ton of advancements on abstracting away IBC with things such as packet forwarding middleware, which again is a nerdy term for allowing you to make multiple transactions in one go, which is like the key driver to making sure people don't know that they're interacting with IBC. They're going to think they're interacting with a single ecosystem, whether or not that's true. So the previous model that I've mentioned before is the Interchain vault. It's a vault that is just deployed on Quasar, uses purely IBC to trade on another chain, and can then even trade between those different chains. But as I've said before, it would be a lie to say that that's an easy infrastructure to upkeep. It is incredibly complex. We're still hitting edge cases even 4 months after deployment and after a lot of testing, because ICA and ICQ are pretty new technologies, and causal WASM adds such a level of complexity that there's a lot of upkeep and needs to happen. But for some strategies, as I've mentioned, that's worth to pursue, because if we continue ironing out all these issues, then we actually have cross-chain smart contracts. And then once we have IBC to ETH and IBC to Polkadot, then we can really build products that just allow users to interact with what crypto gives them as a product and not as a technology that we are trying to advocate for. Now we're going to use the Outpost Vaults model because it's a much simpler model. It means our vaults are going to sit on Osmosis. They're going to be managed by independent strategists, which need to be focused on creating revenue. Quasar is a platform. Quasar is an app chain. Quasar is the provider for infrastructure of vaults. We are not strategists, and we shouldn't be. That's not a decentralized approach, and it's not the way we should focus on the product. There's independent teams funded by us right now that are going to build strategies using CL. We're going to manage them through Quasar, which means you can deposit directly from Osmosis or from the Quasar front end. And with packet forward middleware, you can even deposit potentially any asset from any IBC-enabled chain with one click into a CL position, which is really going to unlock a lot of liquidity, especially given how stuck it is in Cosmos with the unbonding times left and right and the staking times. And then, yeah, there we go. Packet forward middleware is going to allow you to unlock the entire liquidity, which is going to be more interesting once we have a plus next to the Cosmos, which is going to mean anything beyond what was IBC enabled right now. Now, meshing it up, Osmosis and Quasar, pretty good friends since a pretty long time. Sunny is thankfully an investor in us, which we're really proud of. And we've also, always looked at the things that we feel like are shortcomings in Osmosis and how we can help solve them. As I've said before, user experience was one, which is not to say that Osmosis doesn't have a good user experience. In fact, I think it's one of the best in the game. But the user experience that Osmosis is building out is such a vast suite of products that we are kind of helping them build the easy onboarding ramps, the one-click deposits, the managed vaults, the sit and forget products essentially, so that you guys don't have to keep auto compounding manually every single day if you use any of the products. We also think that once we have more interconnectability in Cosmos between chains, we also should kind of work a bit more together, right? And that's where we see the current state of IBC being obsolete very, very soon, because the way that we are currently looking at this in the ecosystem, without saying it, is this, which is IBC is a route to take TVL from another chain. That's how Cosmos has been looking at this for basically 1.5 years at this point. But it's improving really, really fast. And as you're going to see in a lot of the conversations today, there's a lot of teams that are looking at Cosmos 2.0, less so as an upgrade to the Atom Hub, and more so as an upgrade to our mindset of collaboration moving forward. And we see the future of Cosmos being IBC apps, where IBC is effectively the backbone of apps and leverages both chains and different products to build something users want to interact with. Because the only way to build an ecosystem, if you are specialized in a thing, is by attaching to other products that complement your experience. And the way we look at this from Quasar's perspective is that Quasar is the add-on to Osmosis for interchain-generated yield, moving across all of IBC in the future and always going to stay IBC maxes. You can bet on that. And, maybe there's a bit more meshing happening in the future, but that would be an alpha leak, which would be really nasty to put into presentation. So, the future, grow the pie or die, again, thanks to the Skip team. The tangible the tangible market size that we can capture in crypto is still 100 times bigger than it is right now. And that's also part of the reason why I think it's a bit ironic to think of competitors as someone that you need to win against. That's also the reason why we see in Sommelier friends that have the same added goal of bringing asset management to the masses. The market is big enough for both of us, and in fact, I think we should even collaborate and list some of the Sommelier vaults in the future, because different approaches are going to yield different user groups and different results, and we should combine those to build a better Cosmos moving forward. What is missing, above all, though, in Cosmos is building products that users really want. And I think I keep coming back to it. but it really is the core of what we need to do. We've been focused on tech for so long that we are now wondering why other ecosystems are blowing past us. Layer 0, eigenlayer, Ethereum basically copying our ideas, making them a little bit better, and now suddenly everyone is focusing on the Ethereum narrative. And it's because we forgot the user for a really, really long time. And Cosmos 2.0 is going to focus on the user moving forward, because what we've noticed in our user group when we've interviewed them, why are people using our vaults, they use it because it's easier. And that's something that sounds so easy to just grasp, but we haven't thought about it for a long time. We need to build easier products. 80 clicks through Keplr wallet is not a great user experience. We need to have interchain composability. That goes back to my example of the different ecosystems and how many different wallets people have to interact with. If you really look at crypto right now, our user experience is effectively needing Google Chrome to visit any website hosted by Google Cloud, and needing Microsoft Edge to visit any website hosted by Azure. Like that's the level that we are at right now. And let me tell you something, most people don't care if the website is on AWS or on Azure. And we need to abstract it away, and I think IBC is going to be the main driving force for this moving forward, as it is our best shot in crypto for a real decentralized, permissionless TCP/IP. And with that come more yield opportunities. The more things are connected in the future, the more arbitrage opportunities to have, the more inefficiencies in the market you can exploit, the more users from different aspects of the interchain come together and are going to want to use new products that they haven't had connections to. And that's where Quasar really sits, because interchain yield opportunities are going to be the name of the game for a long time moving forward, especially with how young the interchain as an ecosystem beyond just Cosmos is, effectively just a month old at this point. So opportunities are everywhere, and we are here to capture them. I'm going to do one last check into the asset management industry before my talk is over, because I think that it's something that a lot of people overlook in crypto. 30% of all assets globally are managed by someone. The number of value is $40 trillion. And if you don't believe me, you can fact check it. The reason so many assets are managed is because the global market is so much more mature than crypto. And the more mature a market gets, the more you have a disconnect of people that don't have the expertise they should have, and people that are basically not doing nothing else but acquiring expertise on how to manage these assets full time. And once you have that, you connect asset managers to the users, which is the trend that we are seeing with yield aggregators, that we're seeing with Familiar, that we're seeing with Quasar, that we're seeing with all of the interchain. However, right now, we are 10 times under that in crypto, and I don't think it's super hard to know why. We've been repeatedly hurt by trusting centralized parties. Basically, any centralized party has imploded at some point. It's very hard to build trust in a decentralized, anonymous, global ecosystem, because we don't have 30 years of track record you can show if you're an asset manager in a hedge fund. So you need to build trust structures around that, which is kind of the golden egg that we're all trying to break over here. Exactly, 0% average trust. So the only real way to bring asset management as an industry to crypto is to figure out the gaps that we as an ecosystem have, which is we need key management solutions for institutions. We need an easier user experience. We need actual experts that are well-funded, that can put in the time and the hours to work out ways to generate yield. Because let me tell you something, Ethereum already has it, because they're one ecosystem and it's so much easier for them to do. We need to bring it over in Cosmos. Otherwise, we're going to miss a massive, massive market of yield aggregation, which we desperately need for yield. We are going to represent the Interchain as the main hub for yield aggregation, and Osmosis is going to be the core part of that moving forward. We are live already. You can check out our website. I thank you all for listening so much, and talk to you later.